All right, thank you very much, Veli, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the later half of our matches for today. Here, starting out things with Astralis going up against SSG on Oregon, of all maps. A map that SSG has not felt comfortable playing on, even back in the times when they had Canadian on their roster. Clearly, Hotton has had quite a bit of time to work on the map with the team since he's joined up with them, and now they feel they're ready for the challenge today against Astralis. Stokes, what do you think of things as we get ready to jump into this match?
Well, first things first, I hope you're having a great day, my friend.
Yeah,
Secondly, I'm really excited about this game, dude. And yeah, I'm having a great day, John. I'm excited to be here, man. We got Oregon, as you said, with SSG. And, we're kind of pulling a rabbit out of a hat here. Up against Astralis, I think this is a really good choice. If you're going to test something, you'd want to test it against the lower half of North America. And sadly, although Astralis is trying to head for the stars, they really haven't landed there just yet. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for Spacestation to take advantage of this and see what they can do up against this Astralis roster.
All right, well, as usual, we have our community poll for this matchup. We want to know from you guys, as J9O was the talk of the town yesterday, will it be able to repeat what he pulled off against Hot and Cold? Feel free to let us know between those two players which you think is going to do the best in this matchup. Will it be J9O from Astralis, or will it be Hot and Cold from Space Station? Submit your vote now, either in the Twitch chat or on one of the many social media platforms that you can do so on, whether it's our Twitter, Instagram, you name it. We got it for the most part. At R6 Esports today is our usual handle. Feel free to jump in, leave us a follow. As we move away from that question and talk more about these players, talking about J9O specifically, who had that great performance, but started to taper off a little bit as we got to the later end of that matchup. So we'll have to see and make sure he's able to keep things going consistently throughout the match today.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be a pretty difficult choice, especially since the top three inside of North America are actually really tight-knit right now. But inside of those top three, we have two of those players right here. The second best player by rating in North America right now, Hot and Cold, obviously on SSG, and J9O with a 1.4 currently as well. So, I mean, it's neck and neck. It could really go either way, but really, we want to see the team effort from Astralis across the board today. J9 had such a huge impact on Coastline, but it just wasn't backed up. So we really want to see that change up here on Oregon.
Once again, for the players on the other side of things, Space Station also having a bit of a rough start to things here in their first match of the stage versus the Sonics, as they were able to eventually take them down 7-5 on Coastline. And that primarily, just off of first glance of statistics, is due to Bosco struggling quite a bit inside of that matchup. But again, plenty of other reasons aside from that as well. No one thing to aim it at there, as other players were doing perfectly fine. Even Skies had a great performance inside of it for his very first time on the team, but missing that usual fragging power that we're used to seeing on the squad. Certainly, definitely not helping Space Station try to pick up many rounds there in that matchup. So hopefully we'll be able to see him and the rest of the squad return to full form today.
No, not in the slightest, but I will say this, SSG obviously trying to get, new things set in stone, and that's going to take a little bit of time, So, Bosco not playing the best last week, but again, like they were talking about on the analyst desk, Hot and Cold is finally moved back to a role where he's kind of off the leash, you can say. Skies is in to actually take over more of that IGLing. Obviously, inside of Rainbow Six nowadays, you don't have a hard-stuck IGL that's the only one making comms. It's usually one, two, or maybe even the entire team really getting in on that and trying to make decisions throughout the round. But Skies is there to pull some of that away from Hotton, let him get back into the action. And the more and more comfortable Skies gets with this team, because you got to remember, he was playing with Dark Zero before, and with like BC and stuff at the helm of that, that's a really structured team. Skies doesn't really seem like that person. I'll be honest, I watched this guy play for a really long time, all the way back on Xbox, you know what I mean? All the way back in the Elevate days. And like, yeah, he can play that structure, but I like it when Skies gets loosey-goosey. And when he's in a loosey-goosey team, it feels really nice. So I think when SSG finally gets everything nice and stuck together, things are going to be meshing pretty dang well. But we're right around the corner, folks, from hopping into Astralis versus SSG. Here's the map fly through, so you can see the beautiful Oregon, or what's left of it, one could say, and we'll be hopping right into things.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just waiting on the match to get started, and then we'll be good to rock and roll. Should be coming up right now here. And indeed, here we go into Oregon between Astralis and SSG. Both these teams looking to carve a path forward. For SSG, looking to once again claim a top spot here in the league, and for Astralis, looking to reclaim what they found earlier this stage in earlier this season, rather, in a top 4 position, but since lost it in stage 2 by going down to 5th place. Let's see if they can rebound one more time here as they look to get 3 points today against the former world champions in SSG. Now it's starting to see a much different look, though, for the overall squad. First ban, though, going to come out for Oregon is not surprising considering how much we see her played out on this specific map. Ying will be gone as Astralis' first ban.
Yeah, probably one of Ying's best maps, especially for that basement attack, but we see her used mostly everywhere just because of the quick access you can get to these sites here on Oregon. Haban is going to follow through, obviously just because of the hatch play that goes on that mid floor. Outside of that, we're going to get one mine removed here for SSG's secondary ban. I really like this one, just, limiting what they can in that throwable or that catcher position.
For Momai, we'll see Mira get knocked out. Still plenty of use for her on the inside of this matchup on most, if not all, of the applicable sites. So, once again, too universally useful. Easier to just knock her out than to try and negate it through a series of other bans and utility that would still be left in the outset of the map. Speaking of which, here we go with round number 1. Astralis will be your defending team. SSG is going to be on the attack, and we'll be starting out with the usual site pick for Astralis. They'll head right down into the basement to give themselves that bunker hold on the first round.
And they are going to be leaning into that as well here. John Rooney will be along for the ride, and this is something that we've come to expect on the basement defense, especially around the E-box room that you're going to be using most of these laser gates on. We've seen upwards of all 3 being used there for both doors as well as the hatch, so we'll see if Astralis want to go through with that. The rest of this simply to build around that, especially for J90 picking up Warden here. He's probably going to be in a pretty pivotal position. We could see him playing in a place like Elbow or even Freezer. It just really depends on where they want to place him, but obviously with those goggles it's going to make his life a heck of a lot easier when it comes to stuns and everything else. But the thing is that there's not very many of those on offense. In fact, SSG has doubled up or almost quadrupled up in explosives. We've got Fultz with all of those Rotero drones, Rampy, Hot and Cold, and Bosco all bringing nades to the table.
Let's see here now what SSG specifically are going to be able to deploy all that utility towards as we finish up with the setup for Astralis. No huge surprises here with their setup in the meanwhile in terms of how they're trying to facilitate their eventual defense. A lot of drone emphasis we can see between both Rampy and Bosco on the intel over towards security. This is oftentimes where you can see one of the defenders lurk out towards and have a pretty hard locked position if you don't commit a large majority of your attack to clearing it out. This time, though, not going to be toyed with by Astralis. We'll bring that up once again if we do see it from either them or SSG in the second half. And SSG will know it's not going to be an issue, obviously, due to those drones being in position here. DP Fire is still going to try to cause some problems in the opening few seconds, though, with that T2 push out, but obviously won't lead to a whole lot, and he'll back away pretty quickly afterwards.
All slow and steady as you'd expect here inside of the opener on Oregon. Need to take this mid floor and start working on these hatches, but they have to make sure that this area is clear first. Always got to make sure you check these spaces. Could have a lurker just hanging around, but obviously when we're playing at such a professional level, that's more than likely not going to be the case, as you're just going to be easily killed if you are on that extended roam, more than likely from the basement. Either way, though, SSG has begun working on the hatches. Hot and Cold currently taking out the lobby hatch, but could possibly see them transitioning into getting that meeting hatch as well soon.
Still seeing a slow process build up, though, for the most part, Astralis chooses not to interfere with the inner workings of SSG in the mid-round. You can see little bits of it specifically over there towards the tower stairs. Players from Astralis trying to find ways to lurk up, maybe see if they can get in the way of SSG, but they're smart about this. They're not over-pushing their bounds in any extent, so locking in fairly quickly on what needs to be done, as SSG still worried quite a bit about the tower positioning there, the upper tower positioning, as we enter the second half of the round now, and Astralis looks for other methods to try and get aggressive instead, such as towards the freezer stairs. Still, for the most part, though, just kind of holding the line, holding the thresholds against the push, or the eventual push that we will see from SSG, now that they've opened up most, if not all, of the hatches. And in a second, we're going to see security get popped, which will mean a potential issue for that extended player here. Iconic, once again, in this position, but he's prepared for it. He's got smokes up on top of the stairs, also has a teammate to watch the actual hatch drop as well, so we'll still be relatively secured as long as that status quo that I mentioned previously is maintained.
And luckily enough, that angle's pretty shallow as well, so if he's able to slip deeper into freezer, he can more than likely circumvent that. But as we're getting low on time now, SSG has to spring too. It'll be Rampy to do so first. He'll take down DP Fire, but that doesn't mean too much of the overall push just yet, as they're still stuck at the gates. Fultz is going to take quite a bit of damage as well from, I believe, Shuttle, who throws a nitro cell deep into construction. SSG's trying to get control of the space right now, but J90 and the rest of the squad have started to press back up against this north side. Prager grenade out. Shuttle will be able to take down Hot and Cold inside of Elbow. As SSG, they're starting to falter. Another big kill here for Shuttle as well. I don't know if anyone will be able to finally get the refrag, but finally Sky steps up. Rampy gets one of his own. Astralis, worse for wear now. They're down by a member, and they need to try and stop this plant. The Skies has more than likely got in his back pocket. Bosco will take down one. SSG's playing this with the full breadth of the timer. They've got all the angles as well. Rampy gets stuck on a shield, but finally he'll take down Iconic. But no big plays here from Astralis to shut down the plant. Beautifully done there from SSG to play out on the time as well. Really putting it to Astralis, making them worry and overpeak.
Yeah, lack of big plays, unfortunately, sealing the deal at the end of it, despite what we saw from Shuttle there, trying to work the construction hallway, gets himself two without anything else occurring successfully in their favor. SSG are able to tear apart the fairly standard hold on the inside of that basement site that they've come to know and execute upon many, many times in the past. It's not too much of an issue for them to work past that. And like I said, without the consistency of one gunfight's going by the way of Astralis there. They're unable to win things out as they do not put any additional aggression out across the map at any point during that round. That will more than likely change at least a little bit since we're heading to a different site here. Astralis realizes the core weakness of that site defense is not something they can very easily fix on a repeat, so they'll go upstairs instead and see if the strategy here will work out a bit better.
Yeah, that was just, simply put, that was a round where SSG just baited Astralis into doing what SSG wanted them to do. Yeah. Step forward, take the gunfights with us. We're prepared, you're not. You think we're trying to plant, and that's not the case. So, very straightforward inside of round one. Round two, though, might be a big change up here as Astralis doesn't trust the downstairs defense anymore, and in fact, they're going to be headed upstairs. And on top of that, Shuttle's got some interesting things going on here in Shower. There's a mute jammer here for the drone hole. Doesn't want any info on that. He's also going to be muting that as well. Remember, he's also been changed up recently, though, operator-wise, so it's not going to protect the top of that wall if they do want to go for it, but Skies would more than likely run into quite a few issues trying to get that done on those single panels. Either way, they do have Hot and Cold to be able to handle that as well, but this is going to be Astralis holding on to both towers here. They don't want to give SSG any space to work with early on, at least without running into one of their own.
That first couple seconds away from the round here, not a whole lot of action coming from SSG, but that's not really to be expected anyway. They've got plenty of things outside of the building to focus on here. As we can see, the entrance into the master balcony is going to be one of those. Iconic opening up a pinhole to shoot through in the event there's pressure towards Arsenal, but we're not seeing that, at least not immediately, come out from the attacker's camp. But we are going to see those Hot and Cold with a nice drone inserted. He's not actually going to be able to spot Iconic's position just as of yet, but another drone does, forcing Iconic down to T1 from the looks of things, where he specifically is trying to fend off pressure from the doorway. I'm not sure you saw it on the rappel as of yet, but either way, he's going to piece out of here. He's had enough fun and enough time wasted with the first minute of the round now gone from the counter, and he'll fall back to the site after reinforcing the second attic wall.
Yeah, a lot of different positions that we've seen played like this before. One on the very similar, well, on the exact same map, actually, with Elbow downstairs, where we used to pocket a reinforcement and slap that up there, up the elbow wall as well. So, not the craziest thing, but definitely one that can be used in pretty creative ways, like to keep him out inside a tower there and waste some time. Either way, though, Astralis has been able to keep everyone alive and on full HP going into the second half of this round. SSG, though, have gotten a lot of control around this space. We can see they've already gotten the master closet open here, so they're going to have to worry about this deep dorms angle that DP Fire is still holding on to. The good news, though, can't step too deep into this, and now that they're out of ADSs, Bosco's nade will land true. It'll take down DP Fire, and now Astralis. This is not looking too hot going into the later half of this round now. Iconic will be able to refrag, but still, the control in the deep angles here for SSG is more than likely going to lead to a lot of trouble.
Colt's waiting for this eventual swing from the inside of White Stairs, and surprisingly, he will get it here. Retro still trying to peek in for intel whenever the opportunity presents itself, as well as trying to reignite Soraya Gates. Rampy, in the meanwhile, looking for still this entry capability, and actually catches Retro while trying to chuck a nitro cell at Rampy here. Shuttle will find an exchange to that one, as he finds a shotgun pellet from down below. Ultimately serves just to even us back out into a 3v3, and now puts SSG back in the driver's seat as they take down J90. Only for a split second, though. Iconic still keeping things even and going to try to do it again. He succeeds, and with Shuttle getting one more successful shotgun pump off against the big window push, that's going to be them picking up the second round.
So many angles to worry about for SSG, and Shuttle, the star of that round for Astralis, needed in a multitude of different ways there, especially with that smoke play from underneath to be able to cancel the plant on SSG and force them to have to go even deeper into sight and start taking gunfights up against Iconic as well there in the last little bit. Either way, Astralis are able to get their first round on the board, and it's looking good for the top hold. Really like what they were doing with the extensions there to waste some time and really keep SSG guessing. SSG had everything set up like we were talking about, and that default plant would have been more than likely the thing that would have pushed them over the edge. But again, it's just Shuttle coming in at the last second when he's needed most to save and bail, honestly, Astralis out of that situation. SSG now got to go back against the basement hold. We'll see if Astralis have anything different this time around.
All right, so once again, Astralis with an opportunity to push ahead here. The teams will be tied up at 1-1. Tachanka being brought into the fold for Iconic specifically is going to make this an interesting one here. Obviously, that doubles the delay potential between him and Retro, also allowing, assuming that they're going to split up, potentially fend off both of the usual push points too, whether that's going to be split between Freezer and Construction with the back stairs, or some other positions. They can put both of them in the way of it and ultimately try to delay out the time to a 0 timer if they're able to use those with an appropriate level of it. We'll see inside of the round itself if that'll happen, as I'm sure SSG will have a heightened sense of urgency knowing that this extra delay utility is going to come into the fold. That, or they'll obviously look to try and eliminate it if at all possible. Let's see what they're going to do, though, as they're spawned out on the map now.
Yeah, if there's one thing that you and I learned while we were in Mexico is that it's all a good strategy until you get shot in the face, and that's basically it. That's how we saw quite a few teams working their magic at the Mexico Major. Some of these aggressive strategies that just limit your utility simply through the frag department instead. So we'll see if SSG can possibly muster any of that on their own. They're out and onto the field now, and they're already beginning their works with the Gemini. J9 going to be playing very close here on the freezer stair, so Fultz needs to be careful on that. In fact, he's actually going to pre-fire down the staircase as well. This forces J9 back, as he simply just has to respect this. He knows that SSG is more than likely aware that he wants to play the bottom of the staircase, and they're just going to play this quite safe.
You're obviously not the only one playing out aggressively. You guys have already seen it. DP okay. DP Fire was positioned at the back stairs, but even he doesn't know how he just got killed right there. Beautiful pre-fire coming out from SSG to line up that kill.
You got to win those, DP. Come on, man.
Now, that brings us down to an early 5v4. SSG having the advantage. Does only take down the Jaeger, so not solving those utility woes I discussed at the beginning of the round. Those two operators will be tucked nice and safe deep in the site, but at least makes things a bit easier as they do have a somewhat free death they can lose in the process of this execute now.
Okay, well, what's the next step here for SSG? As of right now, it's looking to be Freezer. Getting some drones down here as well, some Rotero drones to back that up. And yeah, they're actually going to end up breaking the soft wall here for Freezer as well. So we could see a potential plant here around maybe the laundry space or something like that. Have to see what else they really want to get rid of. As John has been talking about for most of this round, the defenders have quite a bit of delay utility in the likes of Smoke and Tachanka. And with J9 available as well, if they continue to try and pressure them with stuns and stuff like that, he can still step up and take these gunfights. But now, taking quite a bit of damage of his own, about half of his HP gone, but Retro finally battles back. Bosco will go down, Rampy trying to find a refrag, but there's just too many flames around him to actually do anything at all. Still has frag grenades to try and deal with this, but can't find too much space. They got to go for this, but it's J9 to strike first. He'll take down Rampy as SSG's been stunted in Freezer.
We can see here Sky's picking up a kill, but overall SSG struggling to try and maintain any ground. That's because there's so many of these incendiary bullets going down. However, it will not matter. All of a sudden, SSG swarm the site and pick up a myriad of kills to completely trade out their losses on the freezer push and close out the round for themselves. Beautifully done as they take it now 2-1, 2 successful basement attacks in their pocket.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like the last three members of Astralis just completely forgot that laundry existed. They didn't even, they weren't cognizant to the fact that anyone could even be there. And usually when you have a push through freezer like that, there's going to be players in that space. And we saw hot and cold. they're very, very early on, at least on our end. Obviously, that's not for Astralis, but for us, we saw him working that staircase for quite some time, droning and what have you. He just ended up hitting the side at the perfect time. Astralis had no clue that anybody was going to try and come into that area, and Hot and Cold gets away with a round where SSG was starting to lack when it came to their push inside of Freezer. Very well done from them, and that's going to be a 2-1 lead at the halfway point of this half.
See the kind of double-edged sword that comes with Tachanka there, with the utility that he has to delay, is obviously it creates a very chaotic situation for the attackers, just because more than anything there's so many of those grenades to chuck out. So you don't
14
really know,
of them, by the way.
You don't really know when one is going to go down, and more importantly, you don't know where one is going to go down. So you could see the hesitation for the SSG members inside of Freezer there. They did not want to move forward. The only problem, as we could see for Iconic, was he had to use pretty much all of those inside of that 1 minute to 30-second transition to keep the anonymity of where they were going down up and make sure they were going down so consistently. And as a result of that, burned himself down to 1. Eventually had to fall back, and as soon as that pressure is gone, it is gone completely. And SSG, as you mentioned, had a free path forward from that point into Freezer, and apparently to get all 3 of those kills.
Okay, so Astralis once again extending themselves out here in round 4 to Big Tower. Really nothing too much else going on inside of that space. This is obviously going to be a top hold here. That's going to be the truth site, actually, being on the mid floor for kitchen as well as meeting. That's why this top floor hold is so important and something that they need to try and play out on and see if they can possibly waste some of SSG's time and look for these big picks, especially for Big Tower here, as usually the default for meeting is going to be the plant right on the opposite of the stage wall, and that's why Astralis wants to play this so close to the chest. Bosco's going to get a big pick here, as J9 simply going to step up to the plate as the very first person to peek an angle as Smoke.
Probably not going to see a reset call in the round, guys, just so you know, especially after one of the members of Astralis has died.
Especially after J9,
yeah. Probably if you wanted that call, you could have fell back, but now you got to commit yourself to the fight, it would seem here, as we're going to have another 1-for-1 exchange go down just at the bottom of those stairs there, ultimately leading us once again into an advantageous position for SSG at a 4v3.
Drawn up top inside of Attic or Bosco now, and it's actually going to be Bosco as well as one more SSG member. I believe it's Hot and Cold on the staircase currently. SSG has gotten tower control, and this is going to lead them into the ability to pop stage wall whenever they need to, but it's actually already been done. It appears that the right-hand panel was actually soft, but the big thing is, Astralis have so many angles around this space, and well, as SSG is going to actually add to them, things are going to get pretty hairy for both sides here. This round's on a knife's edge. It could go either way. It's really about these next handful of picks and how this is going to break down. The map control clearly in Astralis' hands, but SSG have the tools necessary to propel themselves forward.
Left soft, I think, mainly due to the fight that goes down inside of Tower. That player not able to successfully fall back this time around here and play out towards it as things continue to devolve, though, later in the round. Shuttle still waits patiently over on the side hall, leading into kitchen for a potential pick here against any more adventurous members of SSG. At the same time, you got DP Fire doing pretty much the same exact thing from the upstairs position, still trying to fend off any potential push we would get out of Houghton. But Houghton's low now as well. He'll need someone else to do this job for him. And no, it's going to be Bosco instead that finally picks up the job against DP Fire. Houghton will fall, but it's downstairs. Bosco continues to dominate now, however, with the top-down angle. There's nothing that Astralis can do inside of Meeting Room itself to hold it. That hatch, unfortunately, reveals far too much. It makes the rest of the process very easy for SSG to take control as they negotiate themselves yet another round here at 3-1. And we are going to go into a technical timeout, I do believe.
Actually, it's going to be an Astralis timeout. Okay. Instead, they apparently got some things to talk about, and they damn well should. This is defensive side on Oregon, and they are getting bowled over right now. Although the offensive bans aren't the craziest thing we've seen, it's not that limiting. SSG is still going to have plenty of things in order to pop this map, as well as Fultz has been doing a really bang-up job with those Rotero drones, and that's really the difference maker there, especially nowadays with Rainbow Six and its meta. So for Astralis, you know, especially inside of that last round, I think really it's just been down to the gun fights and the way that SSG has been able to handle them throughout the entirety of the map so far. You know, Astralis, they had the map control like we were talking about before, but the gunfight upstairs for DP Fire's positioning was the most important thing inside of that map. If DP Fire ends up winning that against the Mav, or I believe the Sledge actually, then they more than likely end up taking that round or get very dang close, just because of the positioning downstairs inside of Meeting. Just like John was talking about, that hatch is so very important to the overall hold inside inside of that space. And once you have control of it, it's basically impossible to play it. Unless you get a really, really nice shot and you know the guy's coming to the hatch angle, there's nothing you're really going to be able to do. So for Astralis now, it might be a change up in strategy for them. It might be simply, it's really difficult to say because it really feels as though it just is happening inside of their gunfights. And the fact of SSG just being able to pressure them in that way, I don't exactly know what they change up, whether it be a change up in strategy in the way that they're going to stack themselves or really what have you. But that round was just an easy dissection there from SSG. Just the spacing of the players really easy for them to manipulate once they got past that point upstairs.
And those big individual fights, that's the difference maker right now for SSG. It's not even that they're winning all of the fights, because they're not necessarily.
No, they're
Astralis are fighting back pretty well.
They're
here
winning
for
the
most
important
part.
ones.
Yeah,
that's what matters.
Yep, exactly my point. As SSG is winning all the fights that get them further access, which then, as a result of winning that important fight, leads to the other ones that they then take for themselves as well, such as, again, the freezer access in basement 2 rounds back, which they're only able to get for themselves once they finally deal with Iconic on the Tachanka due to him running out and having to change positioning there. They catch him during that. If not, he actually had another incendiary in his pocket and could have potentially delayed further, and that's not even considering what the smoke could have done as well. But it's SSG who take care of those players before they can make that impact on the defense, and opens up a floodgate of opportunity, which SSG seems to continue to get and continue to use those to pick up round after round, now leading at 3-1 as we head back into the game.
Honestly, I think I'd push that even further, especially for the downstairs defense that we had with Iconic on Chanka. At least the one where Hot and Cold was able to slip through the cracks, because, it's really SSG just getting halted there, and then Hot and Cold making the play around what's going on, because he knows the distraction that Astralis, is mostly focused on in that positioning. So I would just say, overall, that was a really good call from Hot and Cold, or whoever made it at the end of the day, to just have him push down Laundry. I think that it's SSG just being one step ahead of Astralis currently, as well as just, as we were talking about before, winning the important fights. So we'll see if that's going to continue to happen here inside of round 5. We're out and onto the field now here as SSG's ready to play. They haven't changed up a single dang thing inside of their operator lineup, and why would you? Oregon's pretty dang straightforward when it comes to the things that you need to get accomplished, and this lineup is definitely going to work, as well as a 3-1 lead currently. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Straws will have some external intel here, as we can see the Valkyrie camera snuck its way just to the back doors of Tower. SSG has not been too keen on using this for the most part here. Nades are getting chucked in. That's man, that's going to create a nade sandwich for Iconic, and it works. Cooks him up good, unfortunately. So he's going to go down there and lead SSG once again with an early advantage at 5v4 and a free path forward into Attic for the attackers now as well.
I'll be honest, I don't want to know what cooked Iconic tastes like, but it might taste like chicken, because everything tastes like chicken, apparently. That's what I've been told, John. Either way, though, SSG with a really nice pickup onto Iconic. And again, it's just been very unfortunate with their positionings. The frag grenades pouring in onto him there and just not having anything to really fight back. SSG with really solid intel earlier to influence that decision-making overall. Astralis is still going to have a nuclear option, though. We see 2 people downstairs, one on the mid floor here. Actually, might just be behind the wall. It's actually just a single person instead. The mute down low that could play spoils to this plan, and yeah, it was just the Goyo playing close behind that wall. Gets finicky every once in a while, folks, as a commentator, so just bear with us. But either way, DP Fire still being allowed to exist here out in the open inside of the actual site, trying to play towards the back now, since the big window has been popped. Has a deployable shield here to assist that as well. But the biggest problem right now is the fact that SSG has once again gotten so much control over this space. Looks like another nade's going to end up downing Retro. That's unfortunate. Skies will pick that up, and no refrag available. DP Fire here as well, but you can just see the amount of intel that they have on these positions, constantly aware of where these people are. More drones coming in onto DP Fire. They know he's locked in this corner. Hot and Cold will pick up White. J9 will get the refrag, but that's the first one of many that he's going to need.
Really, you can see that what you were talking about here before. We're talking about SSG just kind of being one step ahead of Astralis right now. We're reading into them. Even the most recent death for Astralis there we can see is not truly the player's own fault, just a matter of him getting completely overwhelmed and not having any capability to survive in that scenario. And we're seeing it again for J9O, as he had no idea there was a player at Big Window. Nearly gets cut off from it regardless, and eventually Fultz will complete the cutoff inside of Attic to secure yet another round for Space Station.
Yep, when you're up an operator or up, how many was it, John? 5? I think you're allowed to trade. I think so. I think that's okay to do. It might be. So, and that's what SSG's has been abusing for most of this time. Winning the important fights, as well as when they do get in these positions, they're able to simply overwhelm Astralis a lot of the times, just because of the man advantage they're able to procure in the dying moments. This round, a heck of a lot different from what we have been seeing, but still more of the same. Just simply abusing Astralis, and as John was saying, just one step ahead. That's really what it's been. Astralis, though, this is going to be their last round on the defensive end, as it's like what I tweeted earlier, guys. Everyone's just trying to speedrun the NAL right now. I don't know what's happening. I really wish it would stop, because I would like some games. So I'm hoping Astralis can possibly fix this on their offensive side, but they still have a defense. So if we split 2-4, I'm not too sad about it, but, it's just not looking too hot right now, and you can definitely tell that SSG's been working quite a bit with this map.
5-1's looking to be the flavor of the month scoreline here for half times, and SSG are about to sport it here. We'll see if they can get themselves that one final round pickup. They do have to work their way past the delay composition yet again, but they already know what to expect as a result of it. No surprises this time with the Tachanka being brought into the fold, and I doubt it was much of a surprise last time, to be honest with you. But either way, Astralis. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I highly doubt it surprises anybody anymore after everyone saw the influence from TSM, you know what I mean?
Kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh, it's a Tachanka pick.
How dare you?
You just hype it up.
Useless. Gosh. I mean, God, did you guys know there was literally only one operator that wasn't played at Mexico? And I'm pretty sure it was an offensive operator. I'm pretty sure we got every defensive operator when we were at Mexico when I last counted. Yeah. So there's like a singular offensive operator that wasn't played. And it wasn't even Amaru, which is hilarious. But either way,
Amaru got used a lot on Chalet specifically, I noticed.
Amaru's a pretty interesting operator, but that's for another day. We've seen a lot of cool things with her. But now SSG, once again, they're presented a very similar defense to what we've been seeing held from Astralis before. J9's going to be in this exact same position he was the last, so I'll be really honest with you guys. I don't know if he's expecting different results, but he's more than likely not going to get them. He's going to get droned out immediately. He'll get a drone for that. That's actually a good thing at the end of the day. They need to deal some damage to this intel game because we've seen the influence that SSG has had with it overall so far. But again, they're going to be playing this very, very patiently. They want to make sure that Astralis can't get up these staircases. That's literally their entire job right now. They want to get these hatches open as safely as possible and then make their moves after once they have the insight to actually do something about it.
Sky's going to pop open freezer, and that'll pretty much fulfill the duties of the hatch opening job there, as I think that was the final one they needed to open, so it's time to move downstairs, and Rampy going to waste no time doing so. I believe that is actually Rampy and not the Gemini doing so as well, but we'll confirm that in a second. Yep, there we go. The Gemini trying to bring it out. Apparently this staircase isn't very Gemini friendly. But either way, Rampy will eventually be able to bring that out and start investigating. Looking more for utility, it looks like, than anything as he runs out there. I think he actually gets killed by his team's own drone as that thing blows up. But hey, it's the Gemini at the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. Just kind of puts it on that cooldown. And here comes Houghton. Once again, though, no surprises here. And that principle applies to the members of SSG as well. They'll be aware of this sudden addition to the hit. As we're going to see, they can find immediate impact on it as it's going all the way of Astralis this time. 3 frags in their favor, no success for SSG. Only a quarter or so of the incendiary grenades have been used. Obviously, that's progressively ticking down, but still, for the most part, utility untouched here. And SSG does not know what to do. A nade kill will be a good start to making things up, though, as they finally take out J9.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, this is just the Rat King Houghton. Crawling, slowly crawling his way up here. I don't believe that they know he's here. He's going to have to step up because of the poison, but they'll finally be able to find him. Redder went back to check the angle just in time, but this is actually given enough time to Bosco, Clutch King, by the way, to win this out in a 1 versus 2. Don't count him out just yet, folks. He does have the case control, but not very much time anymore, and he's chosen frags instead. The chunk is down by Pillar, but now that there's a Banshee, this is more than likely done and dusted. They know where he is now and have the angles, but Iconic's dead. Doesn't look left. That's a quad for Bosco that Shuttle will shut down. That's going to be yet another clutch for Shuttle, who's actually top of the clutches right now in the NAL as well.
Obviously, it goes without saying, but imagine if the dude looked left, right there, had the right read on every single gun duel he takes except the final one, and some of those were ethereal as well with how he's able to find those. The 2 frag pickups also, this man was on a heater, Bosco, in the midst of that clutch. Houghton trying to work himself into the corner of Laundry so he could eventually sneak on those site players, but finally getting picked as he put the pressure on it and left everything to that last player on SSG instead, and still nearly gets it done. Either way, though, not the end of the world. SSG still have a dominant lead coming off of that half at 4-2, and now they're going over to the defensive side where we see them excel here plenty of times in the past. Astralis still very much have their work cut out for them as they switch sides as well.
All right, can I tell you what my favorite part of that round was? You probably already know it, but it's got to be hot and cold crawling all the way through laundry. That was fantastic.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure they already knew he was doing that, so it like was all for kind of naught, but...
I mean, they knew he was in that area. That's why I think that they just started smoking it. And to be honest, the smoke plume is pretty dang big. So either way, he was more than likely going to receive tick damage. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a nice, it was a valiant attempt. Somebody had to do something there, and Hotten's like, I can't just sit here in laundry and do nothing, so I guess I'm going to crawl across the floor. So either way, SSG not able to get out of that one, but round 7 now in the docket. We're at the halfway point. Astralis, luckily enough, able to bind for that second round and make this a little bit easier going forward on their offensive side, but they have to start this off with the right foot forward. Anything for SSG early here could mean damnation for the Astralis roster.
Well, let's see if Astralis get themselves started out well. It is an aggressive float at the moment here for the SSG players across the first floor. I'm trying to see who's going to stick up here, though. That's the big question. I've seen a two-man setup played into this, specifically into the extension over here towards kitchen before, and that's exactly what we're going to get. Hatch is left soft and open, I believe, as they're going to put a laser gate over that so they can fall back if things get a little bit too hot here. Wanting to try and waste the extra time that normally the attackers use to get into the basement to try and clear out this roam game instead. Let's see if the plan from SSG will work, or if it'll leave them with a detrimental player count ultimately if these two players cannot escape to the basement.
Well, as you'd expect, SSG will be playing things somewhat similarly, especially for their downstairs holds. Not so much for their security, though. As you can see, they've popped that security hatch. And as we talked about earlier, the angles off of this thing are extremely limiting. So the fact that it's open and just has a gate on it isn't all that worrisome. They still have to commit a piece of utility to be able to clear that and actually get drones through the way that they want to, if they do want to use any Rotero drones out of J9, but they haven't even gotten to that stage of the process just yet. And in fact, I don't even know if they're aware of the amount of SSG members that have been close to them all around this time. Now that we're getting down to this halfway point, though, they have to begin working on this space, and just like we saw earlier, we're going to have this shotgun positioning here from Bosco. Fultz is going to hold onto the hatch and hopefully funnel them into that M590, and we all know how potent that thing can be.
Bolt still waiting for any aggression down the hatch, trying to keep the members of Astralis away from it outright so that Bosco can continue to maintain his own position. Unfortunately, explosive drone going to get a little too close for comfort. He can still directly challenge it, though, because the explosive radius is relatively small. He's going to begin fending off the pressure, focusing a bit more on the hatch now because continuing to have nades thrown at him from the main staircase. It also destroys his final ADS that was supporting him, so no more utility mitigation. Astralis' next nade that goes through, assuming the laser gate, of course, is going to reignited, will make it all the way down to the bottom and potentially knock out Bosco here if he's not careful. So he's going to try to deploy that Toxic Babe. Nice shot from DP Fire, though, as it's eliminated instead. But now the first member to move in will go down. However, DP Fire gets the first outright kill. Rampy quickly retags Iconic to make sure he's not going to get brought up. And we're down to a 4v4 with 40 seconds left.
SSG also with a good read on the laundry taking Rampy. He's just hitting shots today, folks. That's a double for him. He'll be looking for the triple on the thermite if Shuttle wants to step up and get some on his own. Still have freezer control as well for SSG. Bosco's the only one to falter, but Fult's still over in that space, I do presume. These two simply staring at separate angles. Don't know where to peek now. That's going to be a triple. Make it easy for Fultz as well. Give him the double, and Astralis fall early here, folks. It's a 5th round for SSG as they simply shut things down on both ends.
And unfortunately, zero pressure going out against any of the players on the back line.
I love that we're calling it the hug bug now, by the way.
The hug bug. Yeah, so one of the players going to get hit with that. We are going to go into a quick pause here real quick, folks. Once again, should just be a client reset, though, not a rehost. So hoping to resume things in the next minute or two. Don't go anywhere, as we are bringing that player back fairly quickly. But yeah, resetting for a hug bug real quick as another member of Astralis seems to have caught it. And as soon as they can fix it, they're coming back in. SSG, though, taking absolutely no prisoners inside of that execute whatsoever, specifically the hold inside of the laundry supply closet there, just not letting anyone get out from the main freezer entryway, specifically that last player holding the case in hand. As soon as it was either Rampy or Bosco holding the angle, knew that that player had gone to the corner, they stuck it and continued to hold it. And we could see as soon as that case carrier moved out from cover, they were instantly headshot, as the intel was just far too much in the favor of SSG there.
Just extremely, extremely difficult for Astralis right now. You know, they try and go for the freezer play, but SSG's strategy inside of there was just so very solid, especially with Bosco's positioning. He got to slow down that freezer take for so very long to the point where Astralis legitimately backed off and went to laundry. And that's how Rampy gets all of those kills. Everyone had to reconcile with that and go, okay, we can't take freezer. We might be able to pressure it after, but we need to throw these people another place and try and pull SSG's attention. But they got the attention of one man, and it might have been the man that they didn't really want to get the attention of, and that's really the issue. Again, we go back to this thing of SSG winning very important fights or overwhelming Astralis in that department, and really just them not able to fight back. We've only seen a singular round from Astralis where they've taken it to SSG, truthfully.
And this is, again, not to say that Astralis is necessarily doing anything wrong on a moment-to-moment basis of their execute for the most part, especially with the way they handle freezer. Things are done right. It's just, unfortunately, it's a little bit too obvious to the members of SSG, at least inside of that first round, so they're able to walk into it. And the stagnation, more than anything, that we see from Astralis and trying to transition into the site is what gives away all of that intel and allows SSG to set up for the ultimate shutdown there in those final couple seconds of action, leaving them in control now at 5-2. 2 more rounds for SSG to take themselves up to a winning scoreline of 7-2. And for Astralis, 3 rounds behind, need to start making up the difference now. We might never see a comeback from them. We'll see how things are going to go, though, in their upstairs hold for SSG as they now go on to their second defensive site, looking to lock this one down as well.
SSG with a routine defense upstairs with a focus on the master take. We'll have the regular, degular, schmegular deployable shield setup in that space, but we won't have a Rooney as we would normally expect. SSG going with something a little bit different, more than likely going to be the Valkyrie coming in or the Melusi, whichever you'd really want to switch out there. But I'm going to put my money on the Valkyrie, as you can just usually slot her in wherever the heck you want, and she's got great influence. And this would be a great position for her, as well as Hot and Cold and Rampy are both going to be on the Rampy's going to have that Nitro Cell as well as the Valk of Hot and Cold, so they can have some pretty hefty influence even if Astralis tries to ignore them on this base floor. Hotten's going to start adding some cameras later on into the round as well, and this should get them some solid insight as to what's going on the front of the master balcony here. So they'll definitely be able to tell if Astralis want to go for this regular take or if SSG have to try and deal with that big window. Hot and Cold might be going for a run out soon. DP Fire quite a bit of damage. Iconic will be able to actually, no, it's DP Fire to get the kill instead. Rampy refrags Foltz, but he actually just takes down Iconic, so truthfully not. They even trade it out. Iconic, though, and actually, excuse me, Hot and Cold doing quite a bit of damage to J9, and once again, Astralis caught on the back foot.
Yeah, J9O and DP Fire now heavily lit as a result of the aggressive actions from SSG. Able to fend off one bit of it, though, as we saw there against Foltz, but DP Fire, despite taking the damage he did, I believe from a Nitro Cell is how he took the large majority of it, still manages to pick himself up a kill. Very impressive indeed. Now, though, it's time to move in for the execute with this detrimental health. Obviously, few of the members of SSG have taken some heat, too, most notably Rampy and Hot and Cold, but it's nails in comparison to what we've seen happen to the attackers. Rampy also still potentially flirting with another run out. He's going to go for it. There's the intel. They never find the camera. Rampy having some trouble finding the aim, but he eventually gets it against Retro there, despite his best efforts to turn it around. And SSG take the player advantage as a result of that.
Astralis is playing checkers and SSG's is playing chess, honestly. You know, this is just more of what we saw from Mexico, John. Very, very aggressive plays, but it's calculated. They've got cameras, they've got all of this stuff. They're not just jumping out of windows willy-nilly. It's all meant to be, and this is something that Astralis simply can't handle right now. They're going to have to try and push forward here on this master take, but the issue is the Shuttle's the one with the most amount of HP. If anything, he should probably drop the case and try and get some of these frags, because his friends definitely won't be able to. Skies, that's going to be very forward for him. J9 tries to hop in attic window as they need that very, very badly, but can't try and muster it. Instead, it's up to Astralis and their last 2 members in this 2 versus 4, but they barely have any utility to work off of as well. DP Fire's going to have a grenade as he starts to work into concrete. Nobody truthfully having any insight on this just yet, but as the timer dwindles, they'll definitely be prepared. Multiple different sources coming in here on these members, and SSG is going to wrap it up with a bow, John. That's round 8 in the bag, and SSG with a victory. Or getting up and onto victory point here, I do believe. 6? Yep. Yes. All right. I caught myself. We're good.
You're good. Map point
just,
for
again,
SSG.
We're speedrunning things, man. They just keep catching me off guard. I thought we were already on round 6.
A little further than that now.
My goodness.
At round number 9, as we move into SSG's potential map point and match point as well. This is a best of 1 Love that at the end there from Skies as well. Full confidence in his position, the teammates support, not flinching at all when he sees that potential peak coming in from the enemy. And eventually is still able to get it for himself at the end of the round, regardless, despite the Yana trying to taunt him out early. Here we go, though, into the round. We are going to see some interesting adaptations, smaller changes overall in the grand scheme of things here, mainly Iconic going on to the Twitch. Hot and Cold still sneaking the Valkyrie in as well, though more than likely that'll be expected at this point, just considering how often we see Valkyrie when she is allowed in the pool. Shouldn't be too surprised to the Astralis members at all. Just going to have to watch those run-outs a bit more this time.
Yeah, if anything, that might delay even more time, and that's been the entire name of the game so far for SSG's defense. It's just been limiting the potential of Astralis across the board. Even with their initial defense of the downstairs, there wasn't anything big that we saw really happen. We just saw that extended hold and security with the laser hatch, but that's really all they needed. Once Astralis, catch wind of that, they start having to clear everything and really respect what SSG is doing with that space, and it delays time. All of this takes time, and once Astralis gets to the point of trying to take Freezer, that's when all of those other actions that we talked about previously happened, and they get forced into that laundry take where everything fell apart. For SSG inside of that last one, it's in a different way that they're able to handle things. It's mostly off of the efforts of Hot and Cold and what he's able to get done with those cameras later on into the initial parts of the round. So gets that camera outside, and they're just able to use that for the rest of the round to have influence. A multitude of different damages as well as kills coming through that exact same cam all out here on the windmill. So very well done to SSG on that, but this might be the possible last round here, as SSG has looked just impossible to take down thus far. Astralis only with 2 rounds, and well, none of them coming thus far on offense. Hot and Cold, he's going to get away with the bag. Really quick kill onto J9, and as you saw, the Gemini just coming in too little too late.
Gemini, a couple seconds too late to be able to catch him, and unfortunately, since it is the Gemini, cannot do anything to our aggressive member of SSG, who you see here, specifically for Rampy, he's going to go unnoticed as a drone swings right by him. I think he eventually catches onto it and deals with it, but still, position has been given away. They also obviously know where Hot and Cold is from the previous action. Occurred a few seconds ago, so Charles have the layout about how to deal with the Showers play, but now we need to see them execute upon it.
Yeah, but here's the problem. J9's dead, and he's the entire key to this entire site. They only have 1 set of frag grenades. Do you guys notice the difference between SSG's offensive lineup and Astralis' offensive lineup? It's the grenades, and this is why. If you get picked, especially somebody important like the Flores, you don't really have an option to get rid of all of these shields and everything else, and oh yeah, by the way, they're also playing Jaeger. So have fun trying to clear all of this. It's not going to be a good time. They obviously have burn to be able to get this done, but it's still limited in the sense of DP Fire only has 2 frag grenades. You can only get rid of 2 positions if both of the frag grenades land. So now SSG, or rather Astralis, have to get something done inside of this round that's going to be a little bit different. That's why they've changed things up and started going for this East take instead, but now they've ran into yet another problem. It's mute jammed.
Not going to be very easy to get rid of either.
I'm pretty sure if he puts it to the right or the left, he can get it, but they're going to nade it instead.
Yeah, they're going to nade it. They're to get rid of it nice and quick. So some of the clear being devoted to do that. Now with access to the site, things start to look a slight bit brighter for Astralis. More than anything, once Iconic is able to group up with the team, which shouldn't be too much of a delay. They've got smokes to push into kitchen with here that can potentially work out well. And more importantly, also mask out Foltz's current position, making it so that he cannot do a whole lot from that top-down angle if they work their way past it. Let's see how that utility is going to be used here. Astralis still trying to go for a hard lurk, and it's not going to pan out. The cam work from SSG, the intel work overall, is just far too strong. Some trades coming in, but all for naught as it leaves Shuttle in a 1v3, fighting against the top-down angle, nearly winning that fight to its credit. But again, it's not enough. Sky shuts it down, and it's going to be SSG taking control of another quick matchup here on Oregon in their favor versus Astralis.
I think that there is a lot to take away from that Oregon here for SSG. A lot of people need to hit the books on that. Great game there from them. Astralis simply not being able to get it done. And it's not the fact of strategy or anything. It's just that they were outclassed here today on Oregon. I'm going to love to see what they are able to do the next time that we see them on Oregon, because this is more than likely going to be a lesson learned and probably quite a few scrims in the future here for them.
Outread in far too many situations. SSG constantly having advanced intel, the actions of what they were going to do and being able to set up appropriately on their defenses and on their attacks, obviously excelling to take out what Astralis was bringing to the table as well, especially with those basement plays. We're constantly seeing that on SSG's attack, always winning the important fights to completely swing the floodgates to the site wide open, although things inside of the round up until that point might have looked close. once that one fight or two goes the way of SSG, that's important to giving them access. They would continue to frag out from that point forward and oftentimes bring the rounds back under their control that seemed lost. So Astralis definitely going to need to go back to the drawing board on their defenses and take a look at that. The attacks, really getting to see a whole lot of that, to be fair, but hopefully going to make some improvements on that as well for the future, as SSG certainly dominates today here on this map.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I was almost more impressed with the defensive end than I was with the offensive end there from SSG. You know, the SSG offense was very controlled, but the defense, man, was that wild. A heck of a lot of fun to watch, especially from the Rampy and Hot and Cold camp. Those guys were just on fire inside of that defensive side. But, you know, going forward, this is looking like SSG's finally starting to come together. They're working as a team. It looks like people are starting to mesh and really respect each other and understand and just be on that level you have to be as a team. It's really building that trust and being okay with, like what John was talking about mid-game there, people holding your angles when something's getting risky, that kind of stuff. That trust is very important. But that's going to do it for us guys here for SSG up against Astralis. We'll be back for Dark Zero versus TSM, so don't go anywhere.
What does it take to call next? Follow us for a deep dive into the Rainbow Six community, breaking down barriers, taking you behind the scenes, and showing what it means to level up.
If you want to get better, try reviewing your game footage. Insights.gg's game capture tool makes recording and reviewing fast and easy. With no lag, automatic recording, and instant highlights, it's never been easier to learn from your gameplay. Try it for free at insights.gg today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NAL, where we just saw Spacestation Gaming dominate and beat Astralis. And for anyone that's like me that bet against Spacestation Gaming, I hope you all learned your lesson like I did. You just don't bet against them. But one of the players that we will have in for this interview, you guys have seen him on the desk. I love him to death. You've seen his analysis, you've seen his gameplay. Now let's see him in this interview. It's going to be Skies from Spacestation Gaming, one of the latest additions. And Skies, first things first, man. You with that chain, you're looking better than ever, man. I love seeing you in the SSG jersey. I miss having you on the desk, but I have to ask, how is this whole transition so far? Retiring, going on the desk, and then coming back to join one of the top teams in the world.
Oh man, from a personal standpoint, it's been really tough. Not playing the game for 3 or 4 months. I was extremely rusty our first week of scrims, or even our second week. And then I would say even against our first 2 matches, I just have been, I think, a little bit below average, a little bit underwhelming in performance and calling. But this week of practice kind of, woke me up a little bit. I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with the guys, and today it worked out well. We did really well.
Did you just say you were rusty after seeing your stat line of being 7-2? You're out of your mind right now, man. You and your team are looking so good, Alex. But also, Stokes had a question he wanted me to throw to you. He wanted to know what was going on with the comms and in your heads during that 3v3 in Freezer, because it was insane.
Oh man, the 3v3 in Freezer, I don't remember the round specifically, but if it's the one I'm thinking of, we knew exactly where they were, and I was just calling to focus on this box 3 guy, which is like the freezer door hallway guy. Kill that guy, the round is easier because the other guys trapped on the other side of the map. So we just, kept our heads cool and did what we had to do.
I feel it now. I don't know if this is map reliant or not, but you guys are really aggro on defense. And looking at the roster from top to bottom when it comes to names, I mean, is this something new that you guys want to just be out there in people's faces taking gunfights? Because all of you can pretty much do that on an individual basis.
I think a bit of it was just the vision. We had a lot of Echo, Valkyrie, and they didn't really clear any of our vision. So we just kind of abused that, specifically the last round and even the kids round that we were on. It's not really a change. It's kind of how SSG has transformed to play since post invite, and I'm just still trying to fit into that. I'm used to more of a slower structure because of Dark Zero, so it's been an adjustment for me to try to match these guys' energy, but at the same time I'm also there to kind of pull them back when we need to be pulled back, so it's been a good mix.
I love your energy, by the way, because when you pop off, that energy is crazy. But playing off of information to abuse the other team aggressively on defense, that's something we want to see more of, Skies. But I'm going to leave this last moment for you right here to pretty much show some love to the fans, because what Spacestation Gaming has been doing lately has been lovely. We want to see you guys pop off even more. We love the additions of you and Hot and Cold on this team. And me personally, I hope to see you guys at the top and start banging people out, man, especially at majors.
I appreciate it, Valley. And, to shout out to the fans, man, especially the people that have supported me as well. It's been a long, bumpy road for me, retiring, didn't plan to come back. But this opportunity was just too good to pass up. So I'm glad to be here with, all the new SSG fans, all the old ones, and, just excited to keep growing with these guys. And I hope we can, make you guys all proud.
One last question, guys. Do you plan on doing things? Do you see things going way better this time around with Spacestation Gaming than when you was on Dark Zero? Because this switch with Canadian is pretty cool, by the way, but I want to know your honest thoughts about where Spacestation is really headed. Sorry for the last question, man. I was feeling it.
Oh, you're good. I think, it's a process regardless. I don't think Dark Zero was a disappointing stint at all. I think we did really, really well for our team. It's just unfortunate it ended the way it did. I think the guys around SSG are, they're amazing, and I'm excited to be here. I don't want to, downplay Dark Zero at all, but, we'll just see what happens, and I'm excited to keep going with these guys.
What a class act. Skies, I love you. Tell the team I said congratulations on the win. And Caliber Jacob says he misses you too. Everybody here on the desk misses you as well. But have a great night, and I have a feeling we'll see a lot more interviews with you guys soon. You have a good one.
Have a good one, Valley.
Take it easy, man. So you guys saw me try to grab a little bit of drama towards the end, but as humble and professional as ever, Skies and Spacestation Gaming rocked away. The Space Boys got a big win against Astralis here on Oregon. Jesse and Jacob, how did you feel about this map?
Really good. I think the way that Skies approached that interview was exactly the way you should. Stay humble about it. Make sure that this is just like another step on the road to continued success, if anything. And this game just proves that even when it kind of looks like Astralis might have a couple of good ideas in the bag, SSG said, nah, and just pulled the win out. It was a really good thing to see.
Yeah, Skies spent one event on the desk and realized, no, he belongs in the server playing the way that he knows.
He's back where he belongs, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he's playing fantastic with Space Station. I do like what he said in his interview where he was a little bit rusty for that first week of play. We definitely saw that, and we commented on the desk. But for him to come back here today and have a good performance, 7-2, as you pointed out, 2 deaths is kind of insane for a game that went 9 rounds. He should be very happy with this performance. And yeah, I mean, going with SSG right now, they look very good.
And playing against a team that can have pretty much a chaotic play style, especially on attack.
Oh, yeah.
The things that you just don't expect. They play it differently than a lot of other teams. Shuttle and Iconic was on top with 5 kills, also negative. And when it came to opening kills, Spacestation Gaming had 6 of them. They were looking hot, man. But let's talk about Shuttle and Retro for a second, Jacob, because they changed roles. Shuttle was on top, but it just still felt kind of weird.
Well, yeah, it was on attack. We saw Retro switch from the hard support over to flank watch. He played Nomad, and we saw Retro on Thermite, which we don't... I never would have thought we would have seen something like that on like a mid-season swap for some reason. It probably wasn't a huge deal, mostly because none of Astralis' attacking rounds worked in the first place. But it does beg the question, why would you pull that kind of move out against Space Station when you already have like a little bit of success, if nothing else, on who plays what role so far? Astralis have a formula, and even if they don't have a whole bunch of wins under their belt, it does still work for them on several attack rounds, but then they made the switch, and I just kind of have to question why you do that in the first place.
All right, now, Jesse, I have a two-part question for you, right? So, I mean, take a look at the stats right now. Rampy's on top, 12-5. We know from history and just from the eye test and just having two brain cells that actually work, that when someone like Rampy and Bosco get extremely comfortable on the roster, they take over, and Rampy can turn into one of the most deadly players in the lobby, in the world, if you give him that chance, right? But take a look at Astralis at the same time. DP Fire, one of their most important and vital members, he was 0-5 by round 6. You have players on Astralis really not being able to capitalize on anything, and Spacestation just had it their way.
Yeah, I think DP Fire is a player that is worth highlighting, and he didn't have a great start to this game. 3 opening deaths for the first 3 rounds. He was trying to play really aggressive in kind of these like rat spots. You saw the wow kill that happened when he was up, on the top floor roaming that laundry defense. I think he really did take some time to find his stride. Once he started getting opening picks was actually as soon as they transitioned from the defense over to attack. That's where he started to find his stride. Obviously didn't result in any round wins for them when he was able to get those, but it did feel like he was picking up a little bit more in that second half. Unfortunately, when you're playing aggressive on a map like Oregon, you have to be able to get those opening kills, because if you die, as he was, it's really hard for your team to pull those games back.
You're right. Now, Jacob, before I ask you about the community poll question, anything else you want to get off your chest? Are you good for now?
So you know how you asked me to come up with like a nickname for the Astralis trio? I haven't come up with a nickname right now. And the reason for that is I don't think they've earned it yet. I hate to say it, but we've already seen them play 4 games. We've hyped them up into oblivion at this point, like practically into outer space. But what have they done? Beat Xset. Not really a long list of accomplishments there. So once they get more things on track, I think once their defenses are a little bit less erratic and chaotic, once we understand more about what this team can truly bring to the table and not just see like some flashes in the pan, then maybe I'll go through and give them that trio nickname. But for right now, Astralis, I hate to say it, I don't know if it's new org syndrome or something, but what we've seen so far through both Super Weeks has not been enough to impress me.
I mean, I will say this. Them going against Space Station Gaming, we expected a better game. We didn't expect them to outright win. Well, my dumb prediction did. But still, though, Jesse, you have a highlight to show us, man. What's going on behind the scenes? What's going on behind the tape? I'm sorry.
So this is a particularly poor play to come in from Astralis, but I wanted to highlight it because it represents an overall problem that we've seen from them. This is going to be their meeting defense, and they're extending into Big Tower. You see Iconic up in T3, and J9O is backstage. He's the one we're going to be focusing on, because this is not in itself a bad extension. It's a little uncommon, but if you want to be extending like this, I can see how it could work. But you need these 2 players to work together and to stay alive. And J9O, knowing that, how is he going to approach this? Well, we'll take a look at his POV in a moment here when we swap to him. He swings the backstage doorway right when his teammates call for a potential rehost and pulls his gun up. He's outside the door with 1 foot by the time he goes down. It's just not the right call. That forces Iconic to fall back. And yeah, as Smoke too, that's the thing, right? Toxic Babes completely going to waste. Iconic does get a kill here at the end. He gets traded as well, so it's a 1-for-1 for Iconic, but this extension does not work for Astralis. That's fundamentally because they play so aggressively. We saw that from J9O. I think we saw it from Shuttle in the very first round on the on the bottom floor defense. And we saw it from DP Fire throughout those first couple of rounds on those opening deaths. It just wasn't working out with this aggression for Astralis.
Not at all. Now, fellas, the community poll, and this one just shows the power of Space Station Gaming. Jacob, J9O was the talk of the town yesterday, man. 22 kills, 7 deaths. He had a good game. They still lost. They lost again. Can he repeat himself against Hot and Cold? Now, Hot and Cold isn't like anybody he went against yesterday. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So, how did you think he would have probably fared in this type of contest? And what would you personally think before the matchup, your own personal opinion?
No, I was going to say, before the game began, I thought there might have been a little bit of space for J9 to have, a better game. Maybe not 22 kills, maybe at least back in double digits, because Space Station's just a way harder team, but it's Hot and Cold. You can't take anyone off the Hot and Cold hype train, especially after Stage 1. Even if J9 had a really good performance yesterday, Hot and Cold's going to win every time.
Jesse, when did Hot and Cold just flip the switch and say, I'm tired of opening walls, I'm ready to just clap everybody in the server?
I mean, yeah, months ago, Valley. This has been an old trend now. We should know the new Hot and Cold.
One of the most consistent tears we have seen in the NAL, though, especially after a role change. I haven't seen anybody like that, to be completely honest. But Hot and Cold, all he does is win, no matter what. 64-36. Shane, I know, didn't stand a chance in HE double hockey sticks. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Space Station Gaming did pull away with that win against Astralis on Oregon. But coming up next, this game is not to jinx it, but this game should be way better than the last two series that we saw. We saw the speed run, we saw Oregon, but Dark Zero facing off against TSM is one for the ages. I can't wait to break it down. My boys right here on the desk. We'll catch you guys on the other side of this break for some more NAL action.